Hi, everyone. My name is Rick Manning, and I'm the Executive Director of the Friends of Stewart Park. And I hope you can hear me. Natasha will let me know shortly, if not. In the background, we have Natasha Bratkowski, who's helping us out today with all the tech stuff. Friends of Stewart Park for about 10 to 12 years has been working very hard to revitalize Stewart Park with the City of Ithaca and the Wharton Studio Museum and many other supporters that we'll tell you about tonight. And tonight we will be, I'll be joined by Diana Reisman, who is the Wharton Studio Museum Executive Director and also the Chairman of the Friends of Stewart Park Board, and Janelle Alfstead-Matson, who is our Communications Coordinator. And I'm not sure you'll see Natasha, but she is our Zoom consultant, formerly with Flair, and has helped us out on all of our seminars. So, and I'm going to hand it over to Janelle, and she's going to tell you about our sponsors and a few events, and then we'll get going into the show. Janelle?
Hello, everyone. I am Janelle Alfstead-Matson. I'm the Communications Coordinator for Friends of Stewart Park. And one of many things that I do is talk with our sponsors. We have so many sponsors that we are so thankful for with this centennial. Our centennial sponsors have really made it so that events like this are possible. So I'm going to take just a sec to thank them personally, and then I will tell you about all the exciting things that we have going on. Our Centennial Gold level sponsors are Anchor Capital Management, which has roots in Ithaca's waterfront. Anchor has been serving generations of Ithaca families for over 30 years. And to learn more about anchoring your finances, you can visit them at anchorithaca.com. Bousquet Holstein PLLC is an Ithaca law firm providing responsive legal counsel and businesses for individuals and clients in the Finger Lakes and Southern Tier. And Cargill Salt. They're based out of Lansing, New York. Cargill is trusted salt company or salt supplier to many industries, offering a complete salt portfolio. We have Tompkins Trust Company. They are our Centennial exhibit sponsor. They are making the exhibit that just opened in the Tompkins Center for History and Culture possible. And Wegmans is our 100th birthday bash co-sponsor. And then we have all of our contributing sponsors to thank, which you can see all on the screen there. We've got City Harbor LLC, CSP Management, Finger Lakes Wealth Management, Hancock Esterbrook LLP, Iron Design, La Terrell, M&T Bank, McPherson Builders, Merrill Wealth Management, Parkitex, Tatum Engineering, and the Home Depot. Next slide, Rick.
Oh, right.
Our next centennial event will be in 2 weeks. The Trees of Stewart Park and Ithaca Wildwood. You can explore Ithaca's last mature floodplain forest located in Stewart Park with City Forester Jean Grace and Cornell Botanic Garden Natural Areas Stuart Ewell's Ginenthal, not sure which. These two are really incredibly fun, and this is going to be an in-person event for the first 25 people who attend or who sign up. And after that, we will put it up on our YouTube page. So even if you don't get to come in person, you can still see what's happening and enjoy their tour. We also have, next slide, we are incredibly excited to share our summer centennial events with you. We have the incredible 100th birthday bash, which is going to be on July 4th with the Cayuga Chamber Orchestra, small ensembles, and London McDaniel doing music. We've got memory sharing with Storyhouse Ithaca, and you can come out and record all of your wonderful memories from Stewart Park We'll have free carousel, we'll have cupcakes, we've all sorts of fun that day. And then there's water music. For those who are not familiar, water music is kind of like a porch fest in the park. You can walk throughout the park along the Cayuga Waterfront Trail and listen to great music. We've got a family fun day on the 7th with tree climbing. We've got theater on several occasions, and we've got movies in the park coming back. It's really going to be a great time. You can learn all about the Centennial, all about the events at stewartpark.org. Stewartpark.org is your Centennial hub. You can also get a snazzy t-shirt there. And finally, we want to tell you about the Centennial Challenge. For the Centennial this year, we've been running the Mayor Stewart Centennial Challenge. In 1921, Mayor Edwin Stewart gave $150,000 to support Stewart Park. That's over $2.2 million in today's money. So what we are doing is a grassroots campaign where we are asking community members to each contribute $100. And when 1,500 Stewart Park lovers contribute just $100 each, we're going to be able to match the mayor. And we're going to create the Centennial Fund, which will go to park projects, big and small. You can donate by scanning your screen right now, or you can go to stewartpark.org, or you can call me at 607-319-4766. Again, that's 607-319-4766. And that's all I've got. So I am going to turn off my screen and hand it over to Rick.
All right, thank you, Janelle, appreciate that. So Stewart Park, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the planning history. I'm not going to get into the history really, but rowing on the lake was a big deal, and many of the races ended at Stewart Park. So the Cascadilla Prep School decided to help their marketing to build this incredible, beautiful Cascadilla boathouse on the National Register in the park. And that was really the first major event that Ithacans built. It was a settlement and a fishing encampment by Native Americans prior to white settlement, of course, a natural area and swamp. But the Stewart Park that we know of today was really started in 1894. And what's interesting about the early development of the park, it is rooted in partnership and private investment in this, what became a public space. Then the Renwick Park was developed by the Ithaca Street Railway. And like many communities throughout the country, there were destination parks created to try to stimulate off-peak ridership. And they invested what must have been a lot of money in a great design. Vivian and Gibb designed both the boathouse and the early structures, 3 of which still remain. And it was the happening spot in the 1890s and the early part of the 20th century. Another really interesting, I think less known development is the Cayuga Bird Club involvement in the park. We'll show you a little bit later what they did in the Swan Pond overlook, but they really saved the Renwick Wildwood, or what's commonly known, I guess, as the Fuertes Bird Sanctuary. It was going to be converted into parkland and cleaned up, quotes. And Arthur Allen and Luis Agassi Fuertes, a lot of the founders of the Lab of Ornithology, worked to save it. Then the Wharton brothers came, and Diana will tell you a little bit about the plans for the Wharton Museum. We're not going to get into the details of it, but they were here from 1915 to 1920 and produced over 200 films. Irene Castle and many other famous stars, Oliver Hardy were here. And it was a big deal in Ithaca. It was really the place to be seen, and just a real exciting moment in the park history. They went to Hollywood, their loss, and Mayor Stewart stepped in at this point to make his gift and got the city to contribute to opening a public park. He unfortunately passed away 3 weeks before the park was opened on July 4th, 1921. But this kind of begins a whole period of public investment, and not unlike today, we get into the Depression and CCC period, a 1934 master plan here, where a lot of the park as we know it was identified. In the early 1930s, the park really took shape, and kind of the park that we know today was developed. by the Public Works Administration or the Civilian Conservation Corps. And they also were involved in developing the golf course as well, which was 1935. And that all is part of the Stewart Park complex, along with the Renwick Wildwood. We won't talk much about swimming. We'll get into it a little bit in the report, but we won't deal with it much tonight. But it was a big deal in the park in the 40s, 50s, and it's ended in the 60s with a couple of drownings, not because of polluted water, but because of turbidity in the water. And it makes it really difficult to begin to reinitiate parking in a public setting, in a lake setting like this, where there's a lot of sedimentation, natural sedimentation, that certainly has been exacerbated by agricultural practices and ditch drainage and all sorts of other things. We entered a period of active planning. The park kind of, I think, deteriorated in the 70s and the 80s, and there was a big planning effort. A couple of different firms did some work. Trowbridge and Wolfe did a pretty aggressive design plan that was, and there were some recommendations in the earlier planning study that Tom Niederkorn and others worked on that were not well loved in the community. And it was a big Ithaca controversy. Of Citizens to Save Stewart Park were formed. It was not a shining moment to be a designer in Ithaca working on a park that you love and want to make better. But I think people were very concerned about making dramatic changes in the park, and we certainly have listened to that for sure in what we've been doing. So they kind of pulled back a little bit and really focused on just preservation and historic preservation. And they formed a Parks Commission, which is still today, it's just recently changed at the city, but now it's the Parks Commission and Natural Resources Commission as well, called Pruner is the acronym. But this was a study that guided and led to the designation of the Cascadilla Boathouse, and also the early restoration of it, where it was actually lifted and the foundation was enhanced. And then we get into a whole other period, into a more modern era, where it was around this time of a lot of activity on the Erie Canal. We are on the Erie Canal, and there was a Tompkins County waterfront plan, and some of the projects that we're still working on were identified in this plan, which I worked on when I was at Trowbridge and Wolfe in the 90s. And then the waterfront trail happened, and that's really the kind of roots of the Stewart Park rehabilitation or revitalization effort. As we planned the park, the trail in the park in 2006, 2008, it was going slowly because of some difficult acquisition issues and funding issues. And at that time, we took a more careful look at the park landscape and the building condition, and realized that a trail is really all about the corridor and the place that you're experiencing. And it was evident that Stewart Park needed attention. At this time, this was under the Chamber of Commerce Foundation where we were started. So the waterfront trail development had a big, and this is another, and we borrowed a lot of the partnership model that was created from other communities, but Friends of Stewart Park also took that from the Chamber and and we have sort of taken over a lot of the Chamber's responsibility for the waterfront trail just in the past couple of years. So getting into the Rehabilitation Action Plan, kind of a long name that we've changed now to the Revitalization Plan. But it was done in 2000 and completed in 2009. We worked on it in 2008 and 2009. A couple other important documents before I dig into that. One really important study that was done was by Pam Kingsbury and Tatum Engineering, and Claudia Brenner was involved, and really looked in detail at the buildings and what needed to be done. And the city has really stepped up and spent a lot of money on building improvements, and that's been supported by the Tompkins County Tourism Program as well. And the city recently did a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We're not going to get into this much tonight. It was really more on kind of overall administration and how the parks are organized, and how to try to get more investment from the county and from other adjacent towns to support what really is a county park network and trail network in the city of Ithaca. So this is an important document that when we get into our real update of the plan in the summer, fall, and the fall, we'll look into this. But our work is really focused on projects in Stewart Park. So We had a couple of steering committee meetings or stakeholder committee meetings. We had a couple of public meetings all in 2008. And then we went through the adoption process in 2009. And just a couple of these things I'll mention. The first rehabilitation principle was do no harm. This was a response to the controversy that the previous Stewart Park design manual kind of stirred up. And really, we just wanted to acknowledge that people love the park as it is, but want to see it improved as well, but nothing dramatic. Focus on park buildings, enhance accessibility. That's still really important to us. Consider lake water quality. I can't say we've really dug into that. It seems slightly outside of our scope, but it's really important to what we're doing. That the issues at that time probably were more related to lake source cooling. Now there are larger issues around blue-green algae and other issues. And we will have a seminar on that with Andy Zepp in the fall, Finger Lakes Land Trust. Greening, park maintenance, education, interpretation, which we've really embraced. Partnership, which is key to what we do. We really couldn't do anything without all of our government partners and our nonprofit partners, Historic Ithaca, the Cuga Bird Club, Cascada La Boat Club. Like I said, the tourism program has been incredible, and many foundations, and the city and the Wharton Studio Museum as well. So the projects that we outlined are shown here, and we kind of have reformatted them a little bit for our update, and I'll just get right into some of those. So these are the projects that we're going to run through quickly. I tend to show a lot of images fast. So before I get into this, though, I did want to, so tonight we're not going to have a long discussion about things. We would like you to send in comments in the chat, things you would like to see, things that you love the way that they are, things that could be improved. We will be doing a survey at the end. We'll talk about how, quickly talk about how we're going to be approaching this during the summer and the fall. But we will be surveying and talking to people. Tonight was just kind of a fun romp through what we've been trying to get done over the past 10 or 12 years. A lot of images that are built, a lot of things that aren't built yet, some things that will never be built. So we'll get into those. When we started, the waterfront trail was imminent, but it took a long time. It was built in 2010 in Stewart Park, and it's been a game changer for the park, for sure. It's made the park accessible. There really weren't accessible walkways. People walked in the road. There was one network that was actually the city was required to put in by the Department of Justice, those stone dust paths around the playground area. But this has been a game changer, connecting Stewart Park as kind of the jewel to all the rest of our largely public waterfront. We're very fortunate to have so many great public parks in Ithaca, both state and city owned. But like I said, this accessibility is key, just so people can safely enjoy this beautiful place. And really it's inclusive, it's open to everyone, and that's really, and it's more beautiful. The Trowbridge and Wolf designed this phase 3 landscape, did a beautiful job. We maintain it as best we can. And it really is a nice screening to the parking lot, and it's a lot of pollinators. And I think this whole theme of having a pollinator pathway, and there's a lot of beautiful plantings along the trail that we'll be thinking about that in the future for sure. Shot I took last night, a lot of milkweed coming in here, and we don't pull, occasionally we pull one or two if it's taking out another plant that's already there, but we have plenty here and we love them. And if we pull them out and people see them, it's an immediate Facebook post. So we're very careful. The next thing I want to talk about is the park entry, landscaping, and the memorial flagpole restoration. Some of the early landscape projects that we did. We're very proud of the park entrance. We've worked with the Ithaca Garden Club on this, and they've supported the plantings, done a lot of the work. Beverly Hillman in particular, I think has been great. She was an early board member of ours. We put in the sign at the entry, and it makes a difference, we think. And then the plantings now, right at this time of year, this was just taken a couple of days ago, are really beautiful. This nepeta, catmint, and boxwood, a lot of ornamental grasses, Russian sage, a lot of deer-proof, beautiful plants. You can see some remnants, spring flowering bulbs. And in the background here, wayfinding signs. We need more of those. This is just the beginning. The memorial flagpole garden, this is what it looked like about 10 years ago. It was done in the early 80s by DPW, and this is what it looked like in the 30s, where you could, this is actually built in 1927 as a memorial to Mayor Stewart in honor of his vision and also his contribution. You can see it was square with stairs, and back in the day they used to build pathways, and we're trying to get back to more pathways. It seems like that's something that was lost for a while, and obviously trails and paths are really important to the way we experience places. So this was a great community effort. We had 5 living mayors involved: John Gutenberger, Alan Cohen, Carolyn Peterson, and his name will come to me. But it was a great community effort. Danny Wheeler, who used to be my neighbor in Fall Creek, did a ton of, he's done a lot of work on historic cemeteries and the DeWitt monuments, and he really stepped up and did a lot of work here. He was actually painting up here when we painted the flagpole. This is what we ended up with, which was kind of, with accessible ramps, was really like what was there historically. And then we looked to the Garden Club, sent a proposal. They got involved and gave us a few $1,000s to do the plantings and gave us a design. And it's evolving all the time. This is what we had 3 years ago. It looks a little different now. But it's beautiful and we're very proud of it. And the carousel is something we've worked on a lot over the years. Diana often interrupts me, or just contributes, rather, I would say, to my speaking. And maybe on the carousel, if you want to jump in, Diana, at any time, feel free, or correct me. But this is what it looked like when we got really thinking about it. It had rather unattractive chain link fence around it. And we worked with, oh, here she is. We worked with Christy Sobel and Julie Johns, Rich and Victoria's daughter, while she was an art student in college. And they repainted all the horses. So I think we raised about $15,000 for the horse painting, another 11 or 12 for the fence. And that's what it looked like a few years ago. There's Christy. We've since done an accessible ramp, which you can see on the on the right, and we have painted this little chariot here. It looks a little different now. I'm sorry I didn't have a new picture of that, but it's a wonderful contribution to the park, to the carousel rather, and it made it accessible, which is really a core principle for us. Then, as part of the playground project, the city has always had to take it up and pull it down every year. It's a lot of work and puts a lot of pressure on this structure. So we've worked with architects to design this, this carousel cover that's open on the sides, and it's actually open at the top, kind of like the farmer's market, to help with ventilation. And it's in place now, and it's expensive. It was like $250,000. It was paid for as part of the whole phase 2 of the playground. And this is it with our little Wharton Studio Museum pavilion here, and a bike rack that was dedicated to Park Nation former director, now retired, John Jensen, and a planting bed that our board has worked on. So we think it looks great, and it's become, you can see the existing has just been put up. It's underneath here. So it's become much more of a landmark and a feature in the park. And maybe Diana, you want to, I wasn't there this weekend, but there was we paid for, donated $350, which anyone can do for a free park, free carousel day. And that was just last Saturday. How did it work out, Diana? Guess she's not hearing me.
This is Natasha. I think she's having some internet issues right now.
Oh, she's in Canada, so
Yeah, so she should be
okay.
back on soon.
Yeah, I'll just keep going. Anyway, it was a big success, over 2,000 rides.
Nick,
Um,
I can mention the
oh,
carousel.
go ahead, Janelle. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was incredibly popular. They did over 2,200 rides. And many of them were new riders, although there were also many riders like that girl that you just showed who just went over and over and over again, and they were extremely overjoyed. And again, talking about sponsorships, you can sponsor the carousel for $350 a day. And FSP has been trying to find sponsors for every Saturday of the summer if we can, as many as we can, because a smile like that is just worth it. It's so much fun, and the kids had a great time.
There'll be one this weekend with sponsored by the Rhine House, I think. So that's kind of great. The pavilion restoration, this was a long-term ongoing process that was funded primarily from the Tompkins County Tourism Program. We worked with Martha Armstrong, who's now retired. She was great to work with on this. And it's what it used to look like back in the day. This is what it looks like now after a lot of restoration. This is kind of a geeky thing, but I'm really interested in this. So in the old days, this is the elevation of the inside floor, which extended out under the veranda. That all fell apart and decayed and rotted over the years when they put in this concrete. But you can see the bottom of the columns sit on these plinths or on these concrete blocks here. So really, we would like someday to get that back up so that it is, the whole thing is at this interior level. It would really make it a lot more accessible and make it the views of the lake better, and just really expand the usable space of the pavilion. So it's a lot of the work early on. Dan Mitchell had a few brew fests, and he just thought this place needed some work and he was going to keep doing it. So he put together, he has a lot of friends, and they came out, and he gave them beer and they painted, and did a lot more than paint. And our work then continued with the Tompkins Tourism Program. We got small grants over a 5 to 6 year period. We worked with Tim Merrick on restoring all the doors, $10,000 a piece, these semicircular units. And then we got a bigger grant to do the interior. And that's what it looks like now. New lighting. The lighting was not, well, the old lighting wasn't shown. This is just a construction light. But anyway, it's really beautiful now, a lighter paint job. We worked with Randy Millen Brown on the color scheme. And so we're very happy with the way this looks right now. And took us 5 or 6 years to get this done, just slowly chipping away at it. And this is a view just the other night of what it looks like. You find all these projects, maintenance is a huge issue. There's little spider kind of creepy crawlies everywhere on the ceilings. And there's I guess it's sort of like a bridge. You're really never done with these things. So keeping on top of them will always be a challenge. And certainly the city is understaffed, and we are too. So, but but we're pleased with the way that it came out. And Diana worked really hard on these picnic pavilion on building interpretive signs.
Can you hear me, Rick?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think my video is
It's working.
but
You're from your
oh, it is?
eyeglasses up. Yeah.
Oh, my eyeglasses. Okay.
There you go. That's better.
So hi, sorry
It's not working, Diana.
which I usually do.
I think it's not. Your video,
Okay.
Your audio is not working. So I'm going to move.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Tea Pavilion. This is the city did a lot of great work on this. We did some early planning and encouragement. This is from the interpretive sign that Diane and the Wharton Museum worked on. But this was in the SPRAP, the Stewart Park Rehabilitation Action Plan. We said it would need to be painted within 5 years. 2 years later, it was condemned by the building department for structural reasons. So the city wisely chose to rebuild it. And this is a historic image, and you can see here it was actually flat to the ground. This moved around a little bit over the years, moved from the trolley line in the back to the front of the park where it is now. But this is where it used to be and how it used to be designed. It was up about 18 inches. So in the design, we recreated those stairs, but also had 2 access ramps. It was done by Claudia Brenner and Bert Fortner, and the city built it over a couple of years, 2012 and 2013, with their DPW crews. Cost about $130,000, did a beautiful job. And this is what it looked like last night with a nice little socially distanced party going on inside, and kind of a dramatic pre-thunderstorm sky. But this is another little gem that, that is great. And another commercial break, but I think we'll just skip that and keep moving on. But do remember, if you have $100 to spare, we'd really love it to, we'd like this to be a grassroots campaign, and we'd really want this to be successful. So please step in. Do you want to say something, Janelle?
I do want
I
to
can
say
tell.
something. I really apologize, but the scan me at the top, on the side there is a dead link. I forgot that we had updated that link and had not updated our graphic. But if you go to stewartpark.org/challenge, which is at the top, it'll bring you to the same page. Thanks.
Okay. And no one uses those anyway. No one my age anyway. Although I've used a lot for menus during COVID, so, or my wife has. Anyway, I digress. So those were completed projects. Sometimes it's a little hard to know what's completed and what is ongoing, but we took a stab at that. So these are more ongoing projects. The Fuertes Overlook restoration is something we were very interested in. This was a project that was funded by the Cayuga Bird Club. They created the bird sanctuary, which is what the pond now. That was in 27 and 34, they built this overlook. And it kind of fell into some disrepair over the years. We restored it in 2017 and 18 with funding from mainly from the Triad Foundation and another family foundation. This is Diana scraping, and Joel Brain was our stonemason of Brain Stone. Whoops. And I don't have a picture of it, but the reason why it's ongoing is because when the water went down last year, we realized that there was a gaping hole in the footer on the outside that we didn't notice when we were doing this work. So we'll be raising $20,000 to $40,000 to fix that, hopefully next winter. So it has gone from a completed project to an underway project, and a project that we need to find a generous donor or two for. Signage is something that is really important. We have a nice prototype, we think, and we'd like to place more of these throughout the park. We are just looking for funding for that. Our Centennial Challenge initially was conceived to do a lot of these small projects, whether it's accessible pathways, signage, little things that we'll talk about later that are hard to fund. We may end up using that as a matching fund for the splash pad grant, but we're going to work on that with the city and decide how to spend that money. We've raised about $20,000 so far. We have a good prospect for a $20,000 match. So we think we'll get to 60 in a month, and then we'll keep going through the year, and maybe we'll get to 150,000. That's certainly our goal. Signs. So this is Mayor Myrick at the Dance Pavilion, or the movie studio is now what it's called. I guess that sign was redone. Beautifully designed. Some of the other building signs that we've done. There's also one in the boathouse as well. The waterfront trail has, we worked very hard on the design of both side, on either side of the kiosk. There's an interpretive panel on one side and a trail map showing where you are on the other side. And just note that Stu Stein is dedicated here. He was really instrumental in starting the whole tourism program a few years ago and sadly passed away. An interpretive sign that was paid for by the Cuba Bird Club overlooking the Renwick Wildwood. It's a cool sign that we really like the way that we've, the way this has been designed. It tells a story not only of saving the wildwood, but also of the habitat that's there now and both the vegetation and bird habitat. And then the kiosk, this is just yesterday. Someone looking, yes, I did ask him to point, but he was looking at it and he was looking at the cool splash pad and wanting it to be something that he, as an older young man, would want to play in. So now we're going to talk about the splash pad. The inclusive playground. This has been our really biggest project and remains to be so. As you know, there's a lot of older play equipment around the small pavilion, or what we call the T pavilion. So most of that is still there. Some may be removed over the years. We're working on the city on that, and there'll be another audit of this, safety audit of this done in the course of preparing the revitalization plan update. Some things we absolutely think need to stay, like the iconic elements, Stewie and these really big swings. Some we're less enthusiastic about, but that's something we have to work on at the city. An early sketch, which I just found and I thought was cool. This was an early conception for our splash pad, which was slightly over the top. And then we had this berm that went up and down with a tunnel underneath it. Elements of that have stayed. And then what we have now is the community build, which was here. And this panel tells that story. It was a muddy week in September 2018, where we had over 900 volunteers work 12 4-hour shifts and get a huge amount of work done. And then many weekends during the course of the fall and even in the spring, we worked on finishing it. Community builds, like many things, are seemingly never done, but it's a really charming structure that it picks up elements of the street railway, the steamboat over here. So a lot of these community builds will reference a community's history, and that's what we wanted to do here as well. But this is intended for preschool kids 2 to 5. And it is accessible, not as accessible as the next structure we'll show you. Phase 2 was this berm with an accessible pathway that sort of tracks the elevation of the of this highly accessible landscape structure, play structure that was designed by Parkitects. Steve Lawson and his wife Diane and others did a great job. And you've all probably seen it. We think it's great. We're just really so pleased with it and think it will be there for a long time. The surfacing is a big part of it, so that it's not all rubber surfacing, but we've touched on all the key transfer areas. This was $1.2 million project. Barbara Lifton was very instrumental in getting $1 million state grant for this, which we're forever thankful for that. And we raised the additional funding for phase 1 for the community build and this. This is Peter and his son Andrew, and they love this. So I just want to point out the importance of this accessible pathway here. It sort of ties in at 3 different elevations so that children in wheelchairs or caregivers can access this at different places, and they don't have to go up or down. Enter at the lowest point and then come back. They can interact with it in many different ways, and it's really, I think, and also we learned the change of elevation is a wonderful experience for children with mobility issues or in wheelchairs. So, and we feel it's been very successful. I just want to show you this video. This is Andrew's mom talking about, and dad talking about
Hi, I'm
this.
Paul Matolo, and I have a son, Andrew, who's almost 10 years old. And we are so excited that this part of the playground is opened, and he has been loving the last 2 days of just exploring the whole thing. it's not just that he can walk to the top and look around. He can get on and in and interact with so many different parts of this playground. It's clear how much thought and energy and love has gone into this. And we can't wait to just keep enjoying it season after season. So thank you so much.
Playgrounds are usually a lot of work for us because we're lifting and pushing, and this playground is a place where he is independent and having fun, and we don't have to do all the lifting and working, and we can see him have fun on his own with his friends. So that's what I'm loving about this, and to see him happy doing it is really important. So thanks.
That is the best slide ever. Okay.
Hi, I'm Paul
Whoops,
Matolo.
sorry.
And
Okay. So this is an image I just took, I think, this morning. And I think one beautiful thing about this playground is just the way that it is knit into the overstory, the mature trees in the park. It's sort of shady, and that was a very important part of our design, and we think it has worked really well. There are many things to finish here: accessible pathways, accessible picnic tables. Accessibility is a challenge. It's a way of thinking that has many layers that we're continually learning more about, and we will get there. But this is a great start that needs to be finished for sure. And the phase 3 of this is the splash pad. You can see right here with the accessible pathway. We are going to be submitting probably about a $650,000 state grant for this. And we're very excited about that. It's due at the end of July. Less excited about the deadline, but that's the way it goes. So here's the old splash pad, still there. We designed this so that the new berm embraced it and worked around it, just knowing that we would need to take advantage of fundraising opportunities, and that it was going to be a challenge and take some time to raise this amount of money. So it works and it's great. It's a little more targeted towards younger kids, and I think the new one will be way more fun. Another view of it from the top. And this is what the pad itself will look like. We have a pattern of the Finger Lakes set into the concrete, and then a lot of overhead features and ground sprays. It's interactive. The water goes on, not all the time, but you have to press buttons to activate it. So I think it'll be a little less water intensive, though there's a lot of bells and whistles here, but something that is more interactive and should be way more fun. And this is an image of another one like it in another community. Fairly similar color scheme is what we're going with, more earth tones with a little bright green. And this is we're again working with aquatics and parkitects on that, stream collaborative design, this bathroom structure. This will have 3 bathrooms, boys, girls, and a family changing table. They all have changing features, and there's adult changing tables here. So it's highly accessible, and it's modeled after the pavilion designs, the similar kind of roof line. Oh, there he is again. Oh yeah, so this is the kiosk. We have on 3 sides, we have information about the playground, and on the 4th side, we have the Stewart Park Lending Library. We're going to be dedicating this with a new sign dedicated in honor of our fundraiser, Elaine Nicholas. It will be Elaine's Lending Library, and that will be on the 28th, I believe. And I'm sure I'll get a text if that's wrong. Monday, the 28th at noon. So, Boathouse, this is going on right now, and we're so excited about this. Beautiful structure that is deteriorated over the years. They were great designers, maybe not such great structural engineers back in the 1890s. And it's just a really difficult site with the weather and the water and the rain and the wind. And So it's challenging. There was an effort in 2006 about where Dan Mitchell was involved, and also the Cornell Historic Preservation Program. I think Brian McCracken actually worked on this, who's the current city planner when he was in graduate school at Cornell. So that was a start, and they got some work done, and it made a difference. But over time, that too faded away. It's still in use as a boat club, boat house, which is great. Cascadola Boat Club is there, and it's a very active, vibrant club. The city replaced the roof in 2017. It was about a $200,000 roofing job, so we're very appreciative of that. And now the next key priority is to do the outside of the building. But before it's just started. It's not terribly photogenic yet, so there's not a whole lot to show. But I wanted to hint at what's upstairs. The next phase of this, after the $500,000 exterior renovation, will be about a $2 million interior restoration to make this beautiful gymnasium open, and also to restore the veranda and the other larger tower. So that will be a priority. I don't know when we'll get to that, but I know the Historic Ithaca is very interested in this. They wrote the grant and are managing the construction of this. The city contributed $125,000 to a $350,000 grant. Just to show you, there's construction going on. Here's a construction drawing. Here's the Environmental Protection Fund grant. And some work is beginning. There's a lot of carpentry work on the veranda, on the upstairs, and this accessible ramp to the bathrooms going in below. So there's really not a lot to show yet, but it'll be done by the fall, and it's going to be a real game changer for the park. It's something that Diana has put a huge effort into this, just in speaking about it constantly and organizing that meeting where Historic Ithaca and the city got together, and they agreed to write a grant in 2018, which was successful. The Wharton Stewart Museum, I'm going to have to do this because Diana's internet connection is kind of weak. As most of you know, the DPW maintenance building was the Wharton Studio Museum, was the Wharton Studio back from 1915 to 1920. A lot of these artifacts are still remaining. Because of silent film, you could film a bunch of things at once, but you have to separate them visually, not from a sound perspective. So there is this tracking with dividers that is still in place. There's Alan Cohen, back when he was mayor, helping out. Scott Wiggins, who is my co-founder of the Friends of Stewart Park, and my friend Norm Pure, Pam Mackesy, doing some early painting, and there was a lot of that involved. Currently we are, as the first phase of the Wharton Studio Museum project, we are developing all-season bathrooms in the park. And we're excited about that. The ribbon cutting will be next Thursday, I think, yes. And as you can see, they're closed now. There's never been winter bathrooms in the park. With the waterfront trail there and just the increased use, certainly during COVID, it would have been nice to have bathrooms, and we're excited to have them. So this is an architect's rendering of what Todd Zweigott, our architect, thought it should look like. And it's going to look kind of like this. We've had to do some value engineering for sure, but we will have some images on the top. This is now painted and concrete, this tile on this wall, but it's painted concrete block here, painted concrete floors, black partitions. The lights are delayed, but they will be coming soon. They were a special order. This is what it looked like about a month ago, with everything removed, all the existing fixtures rather. This is what it looked like about a week, 5 days ago, with the new color scheme, sort of a greenish blue, light blue ceiling, and I don't know, a ocean blue, Caribbean blue wall, which we think is very attractive. And just today, these were put in. the partitions are going in, and then the fixtures need to set for a few days. Then on Monday, it'll be painted. The floors will be painted, let dry for a couple of days, and we'll be able to open it on Wednesday or Thursday. So it's very exciting. You know, bathrooms are not the sexiest thing, but they are surely probably one of the most important things in the park, both for older folks and for young kids and everyone in between. So this is great. We raised about $120,000. The Tompkins County Tourism Program gave us a $50,000 grant for this. Their priority is to develop Stewart Park as a winter destination, so winter bathrooms fit right in. So we're very appreciative of that and all their other support. This is an old concept. I've had some fun putting this together, finding some early ideas. This is not going to happen this way, but this one is way more possible. This is our newest design for the Wharton Studio Museum, and here's the bathrooms. Someday, perhaps we'll have a parking area / plaza connected with a walk connecting to the restored picnic pavilion, an outdoor terrace, cafe in the corner, gallery space on the inside. So we're basically taking what was the veranda on this building, which is the same as the veranda on the picnic pavilion. And that was all walled in when the Whartons came, so they could control the environment and have more space. So we're taking that back and leaving the current workspace as is, as a maintenance building. This is an image, just the concept of the, you can see this is like the veranda ceiling that looks like what it looks like over in the picnic pavilion. Cafe here, gallery in summertime, extending out into the terrace overlook and with a beautiful view of the lake. Oh.
Can you hear me, Rick?
Yes.
So, yes, Canadian technology is failing me. The Wi-Fi in Montreal is failing me. I just want to put in a word that this building, the Wharton Studio, is one of only a handful of motion picture studios from that era still in existence. And we're so lucky to have it in Ithaca, in the park by the lake. And Wharton Studio Museum is thrilled to be collaborating with Friends of Stewart Park on this endeavor to really highlight and celebrate this building where early motion picture history happened, and to just make sure the building lives on and that it's celebrated for the history that took place there. So we're so excited, that the bathrooms, the first, as Rick mentioned, the first all-season bathrooms in the entire park, and they're accessible, is happening as the first kind of domino to fall in creating the exhibit space, a cafe, and a park center. And that whole area, that whole section of the park is what we sort of always called the historic core. And it was really the cultural and recreational hub of the park. 100 years ago, hundreds and hundreds of people would come and listen to music, and there was dancing, there was movie watching back then. And so we really want to take that area and look at it again and make it that recreational and cultural hub with the picnic pavilion right there, and then the Wharton Studio building, and the hope of a performance plaza between the two buildings in what is now sort of an unattractive parking lot. So the vision is to bring life back to that section of the park that has really so much of the history is in those two buildings right there.
Yeah, we'll show some images in a few minutes of the plaza ideas we've had. Well, right here. So this is a view of what it looks like now. This is an old swimming ramp here that is now, I guess I would say sadly, it might not sound great, but it's become a federal wetland because of degree accumulation in the vegetation that's grown, despite the fact that it has a concrete bottom. So it makes it hard to do some of the things we'd like to do there, but we'll see. So this is what it looks like today. It has this Amorpha fruticosa, which is a southern native, which is invasive up here now. You see it all over the waterfront. We have to trim it occasionally. This is standing down in the parking area, which is about 9 inches below. We'd like to raise it so you see over this and put an overlook here. This is arguably the most important view of the park, centered on the pavilions. This is the parking lot that Diana was talking about, where it used to be a band shell and the water tower and this, like she said, a vibrant, busy place. I mean, this was 100 years ago. And we'd like to allow parking there when needed, but also be able to limit it when we want to have special events. This is not a new idea. So this was in the waterfront plan that I showed you from the 90s. This is a Peter Trowbridge sketch of tensile structure over the stage. This is looking out from the lawn in front of the Memorial Flagpole Garden over the plaza to the lake. And, you know, picks up on the paving pattern of the old historic pergola that was never built. But this is the band shell and this is the water tower, which the water tower was constructed and was incredibly beautiful until 1954. So we kind of picked that up. I'm going to show you a few early sketches that were just fun to look at again. We've gone through all sorts of iterations of this, and I think we've settled on something that we like now that I'll end with. But it's kind of fun to see what we dreamed about. We thought of, there's been discussions with the Rochester Philharmonic and the Ithaca Concert Band and Cayuga Chamber Orchestra about, couldn't we make this into really a performance stage in a band shell? So we hired Stream Collaborative to do this. We kind of have gotten to the point where we think this is probably a bad idea just because of blocking the view, and it's really expensive and a difficult place to, from a weather perspective. But anyway, it was a moment in time that we think is interesting. And that's what it might have looked like. You know, you'd see under it. It's an interesting idea. What we think is more viable is to simply take that form, that semicircular form, and either in a fill, like an earthen fill, or in a deck, if that's all we can do from a permitting perspective. This is the existing pier. This is the Wharton museum, cafe, bathrooms right here, picnic pavilion. So here we have a pavement that is a kind of a concrete or brick pavers that show where the water tower was, where the band shell was, but you can park in it. We've taken a little bit of the parking out to enhance pedestrian circulation and add a little planting, which we think is important. But to do this overlook actually would, I mean, if it was a deck, it's expensive and everything is expensive. So, but we would love to do this. We think these could be two separate projects. And it's really important to celebrate the center of the park and to take advantage of what really is a world-class view here and not have what is arguably the most unsightly part of the park in the most important part of the park. So it's, we're committed to making this happen, and it'll take a little time. And then the last thing I want to talk about is just signage. These are just a few little things that you know, we chip away at that, like I said earlier, sometimes are hard to fund. But this Blueway Trail was a city county initiative. Tom Knight started it. Nick Hembolt and the Strategic Tourism Planning Board have worked on it. So there's been signs put in and other improvements. So we're now connected not only by the waterfront trail, but by this water trail, the Blueway Trail, to landing areas all around the lake. There'll be an actual improved landing put in Cass Park, and then there'll be one in Cayuga County and one in Ulysses, I believe, Seneca County. There's little things like water fountains. I mean, we could do a better job with the park's water fountains, I think, and I think you probably would agree. The tennis courts will someday need to be redone. John Fuchs and some of his buddies have gone in and striped pickleball, and maybe we need to reinvigorate this with pickleball, which is very popular now. The Cass Park has built beautiful courts that are very popular. bocce. People use it, but it could be programmed more. Shuffleboard. It would be fun to get that enlivened. So we're not in the business yet of programming. I think as we mature as an organization, we hope that will happen. We're pretty focused on facilities now, but but we think there's a lot here that is not being used to the maximum. So I guess just one comment before I get into this. So we think that Stewart Park is a very welcoming and inclusive place. You know, it's obviously beautiful. The landscape is very special. The buildings are beautiful and getting better as we invest in them. And the people that use it are diverse. It feels to us, and we think to people that come, as a comfortable, welcoming, free place to enjoy. We are going to survey. We're not going to do it tonight, but we welcome your comments. You can send them to info@friendsofstewartpark.org. And we will more formally seek out your input. We'll be developing a survey that we're going to run through with city staff next week. We'll be counting park users. That's something that the tourism program wants us to do, to know how many are residents, how many are visitors, and how they use the park. And we'll also try to reach out to people that don't use the park and find out why. In the fall, we'll do some open houses, at least one, and maybe just one. And then we'll do presentations to city boards and staff. We do meet every other month with city staff to discuss these things. And we will do a public presentation of a final draft of the revitalization plan update. And then in early winter, we'll be finalizing the report in hopes that it will be adopted by the city as sort of a guideline for grant writing, fundraising, maintenance management, that kind of thing. So once again, if you feel inspired, we would love you to look up stewartpark.org/challenge and support the Centennial Challenge. And you will be hearing soon about the matching grant, which we should unroll in about 2 weeks, we're hoping. So Janelle, do you want to?
Yeah, we had something in the chat, somebody asking other ways that they can help. And I meant to send it to everyone, but instead it just went to Natasha, and I figured it would just be easier to hop on and let everybody know. So next week we have Sprucing Up Stewart Park Week, where we are doing a lot of things related to painting benches and assembling picnic tables, and just overall doing little things to make the park look a lot nicer and brighter in time for the Centennial on July 4th, the Centennial Party on July 4th. And so we for sure have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 4 to 8. And of course you can come in shifts or whenever it works for you, that we will be at the park by the Wharton building with the DPW garage doors is where we'll be meeting. And that would be a really great way to come out and support the park and wear your paint clothes and get ready to do some work, possibly doing Thursday and Friday shifts too, but we're feeling it out as we have people sign up. You can go to stewartpark.org/help, the stewartpark.org/help, and you can fill out a form there to say that you're interested in volunteering. And so instead of just showing up and hoping that everything's happening and as it's supposed to be, that will be the people who sign up there. We will have your contact information and we'll be able to send you updates with exactly what we're doing on what times and where, or like if there's a rain cancellation or anything like that. Another way that you can help Stewart Park is that we are currently actively seeking board members. The Friends of Stewart Park we're a nonprofit, and nonprofits are have board of directors, and we are definitely looking for board of directors members. So if it's something that you might be interested in, again, you can email that info@friendsofstewartpark.org. That address comes to me, but anything that needs to go to anybody else, I pass it on. And it's a great way to get involved. Thanks.
Thanks, Janelle. Natasha, I think we're sort of on time. If people have a burning question, we would be happy to entertain that and have a, I don't know, discussion for 5 or 10 minutes. Or not. It wasn't necessarily the plan, but I think we can do it.
Also,
Hi.
if people are not feeling like they want to get on their microphone or video, you can always put your question in the chat and we can address it that way as well.
Good point.
Yes, in fact, that would be preferable. This is Natasha. So if anyone does have a comment that they'd like to share, you can raise your hand using the reactions, or you can put a message in the chat. And if you'd like to speak, we can allow you to unmute yourself. So if anyone wants to comment, feel free to do so that way.
Yeah, and while you're thinking about it, we just want to thank you all for coming and sticking with us. I know it's a beautiful, hot night, and I guess we've learned maybe Zoom is a better winter activity for public meetings, but oh, I see a question coming.
DJ put a question in the comments, or a comment in the comments. She would really like to see more swinging benches in the park. They find that the swinging benches are often full, and that is definitely something that I've heard before too. So it might be a good thing to look into as we include more benches along the park. And then Jackie Caden asked how we access the incredible historical photos. And that's a really great question, Jackie. We have a bunch on our website, but also maybe I should be putting more on our website. I definitely have ways of doing that, and that is something that maybe not in the next month or so, but we're going to be a little busy with events. But after that, I think that I could definitely put more photos onto the website. And also, once again, you can email me at info@friendsofstewartpark.org. And if you have specific historical photos you're looking for, I can send them your way. And then Rick, maybe you can address this better. Lyle asks, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but the paved area near the dock is a wetland preserve, ?
Well, I wouldn't call it a preserve, but we met there with the Army Corps of Engineers and DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation. And it is classified as a federal wetland, which is very small, but regulated. So we can't easily fill in it. And it's very much, and in general, they don't like filling on what they consider to be open water. So it's something that we've basically been told not to try to get it permitted. We might revisit that, but I think probably the thing that would be more encouraged would be to deck over it, so you're not actually filling over it. It does strike me, I mean, I consider myself to be an environmentalist, and it's not terribly intuitive given the fact that it is, it's really debris that is accumulated. It's the lack of maintenance. This used to be maintained so that people could actually get out in the water. Swimming there was always kind of, I don't know, a little bit gross. I mean, you'd have to walk way out, and the bottom was very silty and messy and full of weeds. And, it's never ideal, but to a kid, it was water and it was great. But you can see by the old pictures, it would go out forever. So the area wants to be a wetland, and to maintain it for swimming, you have to dredge it. So anyway, it's not a preserve, but it is a regulated, I guess would be the right. So to do the work, we would have to actually have it delineated. and then and then decide how to proceed. So it's an interesting regulatory issue for sure. I wanted to make a comment on the pictures. The old pictures are really, I don't know if the person who asked saw the history presentation, but that is on our website, I believe. And the old pictures are just stunning, and it kind of, it's like the world ends after 1935 or something. As far as imagery goes, you're in the Polaroid Kodak era, which don't seem to hold up very well. So it's really worth, they're just great to see. So we'd be happy to share them when we find some time after the centennial celebration. Other questions? Or?
John asks the status of dredging the inlet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I heard that it was happening. Oh, I know who this is. Hi, John. Now I know who it is for sure. I don't know. It seemed it was imminent maybe 2 years ago, and then maybe 10 years ago, and then maybe 20 years ago. But there was a moment in time very recently where I know they identified a site in the Home Depot area for dewatering, and I think they were going to hydraulically pump to it. And I don't know what happened, but even that effort, which seemed so late but so sure a thing, seems to not be happening. So I don't know. I think maybe Lisa Nicholas at the city planning, she used to be involved with that. She may have delegated that to someone else now, but maybe Joanne Cornish would know as well. Another question? Yeah.
Can you see Leslie?
Oh, that's Leslie. Hi,
Rick.
Leslie.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. This is a great presentation. Will this be posted on your website?
Yes.
Great. For dredging, I was in a recent conversation with city folks. It's not on for this year, but Mike Thorne anticipates that it could be on for next year.
Good.
So that's at the inlet. Yep. I'm interested in understanding a little more about what the current kind of funding needs are for some of those bigger projects and which grant applications you're going for. There may be other opportunities coming with local funding.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a CFA grant, so it's an Environmental Protection Fund, Park Development kind of category, I guess. It's the same general sources funded the boathouse, but that is more historic preservation. So that's what we're doing. We have, Diana and I did meet with Mayor Myrick about some of the, I want to say, Recovery Act funding, and he encouraged us to, that they haven't developed the guidelines for that yet, but there's a lot of money coming for that. And then I think in 2 allotments, and then there's possible infrastructure funding, although obviously that's still being worked out. But anything, yeah, we are open for business as far as grants go. I mean, I think we feel like we've, the county has been very, as generous as they can be. Obviously it went off. Last year was not a great year for the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, or the tourism industry, but they'll be back. They're smaller grants, but they're very helpful. The Park Foundation and Triad and other foundations have been as generous as they can be, but we really do need big government funding too. So we're all ears. So, and I think we have a pretty good line into, we have projects that we feel are shovel ready. You know, what we're submitting, we're working with a consultant from Cortland, Toma Development Consultants, and who does a lot of these. And they were very impressed this morning. We just met with them about how far along we have very detailed plans. And we're developing them for the Wharton project as well, which we want to be shovel ready as well. They are not as far along because the splash pad and the bathrooms were part of our phase 2 bid. They were an alternate, but we just didn't have enough money to do them, so that got put on hold. But it's a very comprehensive, complete set. So And it may end up costing, and prices have escalated a lot recently, so we may need additional funding even than the grant, for sure. So,
Great.
it's-
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for asking. We'll, any other questions? Okay, well, I think, oh, two. Well, maybe, are we all set then, Natasha, Janelle?
Yes, it looks like we don't have any remaining questions.
Okay.
We, did you want to mention that we do have a plan for eventually putting out a survey?
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
yeah,
are-
there will be a survey coming in the future, and and then this, somebody asked if this was going to be on our website. Yes, this will be on our, or the link to it will be on our website. And Friends of Stewart Park has a YouTube page that the website has links to. If you go to the Centennial page on the website, it's got the direct link right there. And all of our past programs, including one on the history of Stewart Park and the history of rowing, competitive rowing in Ithaca, and the birds of Stewart Park are all on there, as well as many other great videos. So you can find that right on our website. It'll link you right over to there. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it. Thanks, Diana. And thanks, Natasha. And